We begin in Australia, where two nurses in a Sydney hospital have been fired after they threatened to kill Israeli patients and refused to treat any Israelis that come in seeking help. The two nurses posted a video on TikTok with their message, sparking outrage across the country. And Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese has called the incident sickening and has ordered the federal authorities to investigate the threats.
It's very clear to me that these people have committed what are crimes, and they should face the full force of the law.
Those people subject to that investigation will not ever be working for New South Wales Health again. They are vile, disgusting and deranged individuals.
The names of both nurses have now been released by the New South Wales Health Ministry. Ahmad Rashid Nadir is a migrant from Afghanistan who became an Australian citizen 4 years ago, while Sarah Abu Ladeh was reportedly born in the country to immigrant parents. In the TikTok video, the two nurses were seen calling Palestine a country while laughing and joking about how they would kill any Israeli patients. The Australian government has even issued an apology to the Jewish community in the country.
Community, today I say not only am I sorry, but I can assure you this: the care that you get in our hospitals will continue to be first class. We will investigate this uphill and down dale. We will not just be looking at this incident per se, but we will also be obviously going through previous cases to make sure that that hospital has been working in a way that reflects those values around safety and care.
Now, anti-Semitism and attacks on the Jewish community have been on the rise in Australia since the start of the Israel-Hamas war and the destruction of Gaza. And since November of last year, there have been at least 7 attacks on the homes and schools of Jews, including the usage of bombs and incendiary devices. Australian police say these attacks have been carried out by migrants of other countries, particularly from Islamic nations. And following the rise of anti-Semitism, Australia recently passed a strict law imposing hefty penalties and even jail time on criminals.
We're strengthening the legislation today. We want people who are engaged in anti-Semitic activities to be caught, to be charged, and to be put in the clink. That's my priority.
Meanwhile, the Australian police has promised to investigate the recent incident swiftly and prosecute the two nurses for their anti-Semitic behavior. However, the actions of the two nurses have shocked the entire medical community, who are otherwise known for their apolitical stance and have taken an oath to save lives regardless of a person's identity.
Hey! Ya, vente, vente! Tranquilo, agarra el bote, agárralo, tranquilo, agárralo. Tranquilo, agarra el bote, agárralo, tranquilo, agárralo. Agárralo, agárralo, no te subas, agárralo. Agárrate de mi cuerdita. Tranquilo, agárrate de mi cuerdita. Agárrate de mi cuerdita de atrás, no me tumbes, no me tumbes. Eso, tranquilo, tranquilo.
Sí, yo pensé que me había comido ya y que me había tragado, pero claro, yo sentía que quizás era una orca, habíamos estado hablando de orcas poco antes, entonces tenía eso en la cabeza, pero ya cuando salí entendí que claro, probablemente era por curiosidad que se había acercado la ballena o quizás como para comunicar algo.
Agárralo, agárralo, vete para la orilla.
Sí, yo en un principio cuando pensé que había muerto fue como claro, mucho terror porque pensé que ya no podía hacer nada, ¿no? Y cuando salí y empecé a flotar, ahí sentí el miedo de verdad de que también le fuese a pasar algo a mi papá, de que no hubiésemos llegado a tiempo a la orilla y me fuese a dar hipotermia.
Tranquilo, tranquilo.
We have some more news breaking this hour. Cyclone warnings in WA's north have been upgraded to emergency level as Category 5 system Zelia barrels towards the coast. Live to 9, Sarah Smith, who's in the danger zone in Port Hedland. Sarah, you have been ordered to stay inside.
Jane, we have. That's why we are speaking to you from our hotel room. An emergency warning came into place last night and includes where we are in Port Hedland. The advice for those in the emergency zone is to shelter indoors and stay in the safest part of your home. We saw people make an emergency dash to the shops yesterday, stocking up on supplies, tying down loose items around their home and sandbagging their front doors and businesses. Cyclone Zelia is set to make landfall later today as a Category 5. That's the highest level it can go. It could bring wind gusts of up to 320 kilometres an hour and rainfall totals of more than 500 millimetres. We were speaking with locals yesterday who were feeling quite nervous and worried. Here's what they had to say.
Don't take them lightly, that's for sure. Cyclones are real scary. It's not necessarily the actual cyclone, it's afterwards. It's a lot of post-traumatic stress and all that.
Jane, it's very wet and wild here in Port Hedland this morning. It's still unclear exactly where this cyclone will hit. Locals are hoping that's in the outback and that it's not a direct hit to their town.
OK, Sarah, stay safe. Thank you.
Well, residents in Western Australia are preparing for Tropical Cyclone Zelia to make landfall, bringing destructive rainfall and wind gusts over 300 kilometres an hour. For more, we are joined by resident Aaron Martino from Port Hedland in WA. Aaron, thanks for joining us this morning. The cyclone is expected to approach in the next few hours. How are conditions at the moment?
Yes, thanks, Sarah. Good morning. It is, definitely picking up. Last night it was a little bit wild. Yeah, the trees starting to hit the house. So, no, it's all good. I just think we wait and see what happens throughout the day.
How are you preparing for these next few days?
So sort of started with picking up all the loose items around the house, packed away all the pool toys, all the barbecues and the outdoor furniture, and then, moved on to packing up the caravan, moving that to some storage and, sorting out the barbecues, get them inside, everything, locked in the shed.
Yeah, it does take a bit of preparation, doesn't it? And in Australia, we know these kinds of conditions well, but Zelia, I mean, it's a next level thing, right? Classified as a Category 5 cyclone. We know just how destructive these kinds of conditions can be. Have you experienced a cyclone of this strength before?
No, nothing like this. And I don't think many people would be alive to say they have lived through a Cat 5, to be honest. But I guess we were a little bit complacent at the start, thinking it was a 2 or a 3, but... Yeah, everyone's a lot more nervous now that it's got that number 5 rating.
What are the warnings that you, are being told, but also the resources? Are they there for you to battle this severe storm?
Definitely, yes. You can sense the presence with the SES around at emergency services. We've had pretty good comms, notifications from DFS about what level we're going into. So, there's a fair bit of support around town. You can definitely feel a sense of community.
All right, Aaron. Well, we are wishing the best for you and your community and stay safe out there.
It is a love story with no speed bumps. A Brisbane man taking ride or die to a whole new level by marrying his car. Giz tied the knot today, vowing to never trade sweetheart in for a younger model. Lily Greer was there.
It is the ultimate show of romance for a rev head, a driver showing his devotion. Brisbane's biggest car lover marrying his 1971 Ford Falcon XY. Owner Giz calls this baby sweetheart. He has 3 cars, but this is his favourite, or so he tells her. When it came to the ceremony, there was no bridal march, rather a bit of burning rubber. The sweetheart rolled down the aisle. Reciting his vows, he said he'd always stick with her, even through the tough times, and he says there have been a few disagreements, a few fights and a few makeups.
I will keep the spark between us alive. No matter how many times I have to jumpstart you.
Now, he has been married already for 30 years to wife Rachel, and he has 2 kids, but this isn't an affair. His family is fully aware of the relationship that's blossomed in the garage.
I can share him, as long as she stays down the shed.
Giz, I think every member of the public today will be asking why.
Why not? Look at her. She's beautiful. I love her. Means a lot to me. So does my wife. But it's a very special day.
Now, it wasn't a legally binding marriage, rather a bit of a stunt ahead of Valentine's Day for radio station Triple M. Giz now has 2 loves of his life to shop for tomorrow for the big day. We did ask the newlywed where he would be going on his honeymoon. He said he'd have to ask his real wife, but perhaps a scenic drive inside the Ford Falcon.
Prices are soaring in the United States and shelves are empty. A devastating bird flu outbreak continues to ravage poultry farms across the US How are consumers adapting to the soaring costs, and what comes first, chicken or the egg? Take a look at our next report for more.
Egg prices have skyrocketed across the United States. A dozen eggs now cost as much as $10 in some supermarkets. This surge is a direct result of an ongoing bird flu outbreak that has led to the culling of over 21 million egg-laying hens in 2024 alone. With millions of birds lost, supply chains are struggling to keep up, leaving consumers scrambling for alternatives. Major retailers like Costco and Trader Joe's have implemented egg purchase limits, while restaurants like Waffle House have added a 50-cent surcharge on dishes containing eggs.
Myself went to Publix, a supermarket chain, yesterday, and there were no eggs. Eggs are $20, meaning poor people can't buy eggs.
As egg prices soar, many Americans are turning to backyard chickens to meet their needs. In Houston, a poultry supplier reports a dramatic increase in chicken sales, with demand more than doubling or even tripling in some cases.
In the last few weeks, we have noticed a dramatic increase in the demand for chickens because people are wanting to buy them because the egg prices have gone up or eggs just are not available. Our sales for poultry have doubled or maybe potentially tripled. I mean, we're selling 100 chickens a week or more.
Homeowners are joining the trend, hoping to secure a steady supply of eggs. However, it will take several months before these new flocks begin to lay eggs.
The egg prices went up a lot. It is very expensive now. Maybe it's cheaper to buy chickens and raise them, I think. We will see what happens.
I was already planning on buying a couple more chickens. I buy a couple like every couple months because some of them die and eventually they die and they stop laying. So I want to keep the flow of eggs going in my family.
The bird flu crisis continues to strain the poultry industry. In addition to affecting egg production, it has also led to the loss of millions of chickens nationwide. The U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention reports 68 human cases of avian flu since 2024, with one fatality. Despite the risks, experts say the general public is at a low risk of infection. Still, with recovery months away, industry leaders warn that shortages will persist, urging consumers to stock up where possible.
US rising prices are affecting consumers who are far from ecstatic. The egg prices have soared 15% in the latest US inflation report. The spike in egg prices comes as bird flu sweeps across the nation, killing millions of chickens and decreasing egg production. Our North America business correspondent Ritika Gupta went to her own local supermarket in New York City to check this far from paltry increase in prices.
Across the US, empty shelves, shortages and steep price tags greet shoppers searching for eggs in supermarkets.
It's ridiculous. It is. I mean, you know what is that? $10 for a dozen of eggs?
The eggs I usually buy, they used to be around like 7 something, now they're around like 10.
Egg prices have broken record after record as bird flu spreads across the country, killing millions of chickens. Average wholesale prices for large white eggs reached $8 a dozen, according to price tracking firm Expana. In this New York City food store, they say they have no other choice but to pass the higher costs onto the consumer.
The cost of eggs has gone up a lot, so we've had to increase our prices significantly too. Without that, we wouldn't be able to get through this.
This is my local market in New York City, and as you can see, there's no shortage of eggs. But if you look at the prices, I mean, they are eye-watering. So take a look at this, nearly $12 for a dozen eggs. Here, $16 and almost $18 for 12 eggs. That is double what it was previously. And that's hitting American wallets. Many consumers paying their grocery bills still feel the pain from a pandemic run-up in prices. Inflation rose to 3% in January, worse than expected, as egg prices soared 15%.
It's been a one-way street.
The egg price explosion poses a political problem for US President Donald Trump. He won the White House in November by hammering the Biden administration over high food and other costs. Trump also promised to bring down grocery prices on his first day in office. But the high cost of eggs looks set to stay. The United States Department of Agriculture predicts egg prices will rise another 20% this year.
You can't just raise baby birds overnight. It takes, a certain amount of time for them to get up to a certain size, a certain age to be able to lay a retail desirable egg. It does not appear that this is going away anytime soon.
While it's not any politician's fault, it's now their problem, as soaring prices and a shortage leave Americans worse off.
And now it's time for Vantage Shots, images that tell the story. In Saudi Arabia, a robot greets visitors at a tech show. In China, a robotic dog assists in street patrols during the Asian Winter Games. In Japan, a snowball fighting contest thrills visitors. And finally, we're taking you back in history. On this day in 1945, Nazi-occupied Budapest fell to the Russians during World War II. We're leaving you on that note. Thank you for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.
On this vote, the yeas are 52, the nays are 48. The confirmation is confirmed. Just number 4? Yeah, but just number 4. Under the previous order, the motion to reconsider is considered made and laid upon the table, and the President will be immediately notified of the Senate's action.
But first up, the newly created Department of Government Efficiency made its presence known early in the Trump administration, flexing authority, which is now challenged in court. NBC Montana's Jacob Owen spoke to Montanans impacted by one of the DOJ's main focuses early on, the U.S. Agency for International Development.
Less than a week into the Trump administration, Secretary of State Marco Rubio froze federal funding for aid programs worldwide. It's a halt former USAID contractor Annie Lynn describes as cruel.
All the malaria medications for the 30 countries where we worked, no matter where they were in the supply chain, getting to the people that needed them, it was stopped.
Lynn's been part of the president's malaria initiative for 6 years. The initiative's work includes spraying homes with insecticides, providing bed nets, malaria medications, and tests. Lynn's work took her to places like Burundi and Sierra Leone. Lynn tells NBC Montana she was laid off in January. She's far from the only USAID employee impacted. Billionaire Elon Musk expressed his intention to dismantle the agency earlier this month. He's gone as far as to call it a criminal organization to his more than 217 million followers on X, which he owns. Lynn's view of the agency is entirely different than Musk's. This is how she describes her former co-workers.
I can say without hyperbole that the best people that I have ever encountered, the most passionate, dedicated, hardworking people.
I also spoke with a current USAID employee who agreed to speak to us on the condition of anonymity due to job security. When discussing their co-workers, they told me simply these were the good guys. This employee worked in places like South and Latin America, dealing with root causes of migration to the U.S. They spoke of other missions, including countering Chinese influence. Despite the U.S. State Department claiming waivers for some foreign aid restrictions, Lynn says the malaria initiative's work remains stalled. Lynn adds efforts to improve the agency are welcome. However, dismantling it isn't the solution.
For what? How many lives are going to be lost? For what? So that Elon Musk can flex, so that he can, go on a tirade against an agency that has been the face of America for so many countries.
Reporting in Missoula, Jacob Owens, NBC, Montana.
I don't think it's a good idea. Canada's been one of our best trade partners and just closest relations country-wise, and having that as their own independent nation needs to be maintained, I feel. We don't need to try and manifest destiny and gather more land. We need to partner and work with other countries in a more friendly manner.
I think it's very bold. I think it's offensive. I think it's ignorant, but he can say what he wants, and it's actually bringing Canadians together right now.
It's pretty much like you telling them you own their property, and they've been there all their lives, so, and it's kind of harsh in my book. It seems like it should be another way around that to keep the chaos down, because all he's doing is creating chaos and making other countries want to hate America. That's all he's doing right now.
It is very weird. Instead of trying to grow relations with the countries around us, especially those directly connected to us, to basically almost kind of hint at threatening to take and bring in things that are not wanting to be. So, yeah, not for it.
We're allies. We love you guys. And we're proud of the amicable relationship we have, but we're also proud to be distinct.
And on trade, I have decided, for purposes of fairness, that I will charge a reciprocal tariff, meaning whatever countries charge the United States of America, we will charge them. No more, no less. In other words, they charge us a tax or tariff, and we charge them the exact same tax or tariff. Very simple.
What should consumers expect? Are prices going to go up short-term,
well,
long-term?
not necessarily. Not necessarily, but I'll tell you what will go up is jobs. The jobs will go up tremendously. We're going to have great jobs for everybody. This is something that should have been done many years ago. China did it. China did it at a level that probably nobody's ever seen before. If you manufactured a car, you couldn't send it into China. The tariff was so high. So everybody went and they built in China. It was no big secret. So we're going to see, but it's going to mean tremendous amounts of jobs. And ultimately, prices will stay the same, go down.
Mr. President, is it your expectation that partners will offer major concessions and that you actually don't end up applying those tariffs?
No, I think that a lot of them will stay the same, and whatever they pay, I'll pay. We'll have a lot of them stay the same. I think some, look, I heard as an example, EU lowered their tax on cars down to the exact same amount. That they were much higher. They were approximately 5 times higher, and they lowered them down to the exact tax that we're charging. That took place like yesterday or the day before. Is that a correct statement? I think so, yeah.
Do you expect any exemptions or waivers?
I don't expect that, no. This is a simple system. There wouldn't be any.
NATO allies are warning this morning that Ukraine and Europe must not be left out of any peace talks after President Trump's surprise announcement yesterday that he and Russian leader Vladimir Putin have agreed to start negotiations to end the war in Ukraine. Arriving at the NATO defense ministers meeting in Brussels today, the U.S. Defense Secretary denied claims the U.S. is turning its back on Ukraine.
There is no betrayal there. There is a recognition that the whole world and the United States is invested and interested in peace, a negotiated peace. As President Trump has said, stopping the killing.
Joining us now for more on this is CBS News national security correspondent Charlie D'Agata in our D.C. bureau. Charlie, NATO has held that there should be a united front against Russia in its war in Ukraine. So how is this new U.S. position under Trump being received by the alliance?
Well, Errol, I'll be honest with you, opinions are divided.
which in itself is no good thing. Most European partners are in agreement, as we've already reported, that Ukraine should not only have a say in any negotiations going forward, it should be led in the negotiations going forward. But the NATO Secretary General has tried to pull the alliance together, saying, look, we all want peace in Ukraine. We all want Ukraine to be in the best possible position. But as you said, many were stunned to hear that President Trump had that lengthy phone call with President Putin. Russian officials say that phone call went on for more than an hour. Both the president and the defense secretary have already said that Ukraine will have to make some concessions. That has caused some ruffles, giving up on any idea of reclaiming territory taken over by Russia and Russian separatists. Most importantly, that area around eastern Ukraine and Crimea. That's always been a bargaining chip in future negotiations, not given up before the negotiations have even begun. So I think the real concern here is that Ukraine and Europe are not sidelined by negotiations between the United States and Russia.
And what's noteworthy is, speaking at Brussels yesterday, Secretary Hegseth said, among other sticking points, that any peacekeeping force potentially deployed to Ukraine should be part of a non-NATO mission. Let's just play that clip for our viewers.
Any security guarantee must be backed by capable European and non-European troops. If these troops are deployed as peacekeepers to Ukraine at any point, they should be deployed as part of a non-NATO mission. To be clear, as part of any security guarantee, there will not be U.S. troops deployed to Ukraine.
What does that mean? How would that work?
Well, he couldn't have been more emphatic. It's a good question. There is some limited precedence for European forces as peacekeepers in places like Bosnia, but nothing on this scale. But you could see something where countries like the UK, which they've already said, they may take the lead. But the reason the defense secretary said that are twofold. First of all, President Putin has tried to justify the invasion of Ukraine as an effort to stop NATO expansion, certainly to stop Ukraine from joining NATO. So if you've got NATO forces as part of a peacekeeping force, they'll literally be on the border with Russia, which is something Putin is not likely to accept in any kind of peace negotiations. Then, of course, the ramifications of having NATO troops in Ukrainian territory. Say there are flare-ups, which there always are. Then you have NATO allies right in the firing line. Simply put, Article 5, right, that means an attack on one nation is an attack on all. So theoretically, U.S. forces could see themselves drawn into a fight in defense of its allies, directly engaging in a war with Russia.
All right, Charlie.
All right, so let's start this broadcast with some breaking inputs that have just come in, where a warning that could heighten tensions in West Asia. The Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian has said that Tehran's commitment to its nuclear ambitions is unwavering. Listen in to what the Iranian president has had to say on the issue of developing nuclear technology in Iran.
Today, they are threatening us, saying things like, "We will come and strike your nuclear facility, Natanz or some other place. Go ahead and strike if you want. It is our young scientists' knowledge that has built that place. If you strike 100 of the sites, they will build 1,000 of those sites. You cannot eliminate them. Yes, you can destroy a building, you can come and strike here, but those who built it, if they are present and aware, you cannot eliminate them. They will rebuild even if something happens."
Now, this statement by Iran has come over fears of a potential military attack, either by Israel or the United States, on the Iranian nuclear facilities. Now, Iran has said that it can continue to build its nuclear infrastructure 1,000-fold. Iran's statement has been prompted by U.S. intelligence reports indicating that Israel is planning what is being described as some kind of a preemptive attack against Iran's nuclear program. Now, the American President Donald Trump had recently commented on the possibility of the Israeli military attack, expressing preference for a negotiated solution to prevent Iran's nuclear advancements.